Good morning, America. President Trump on the verge of that historic summit with Kim Jong-un, revealing how he's preparing for their face-to-face.
I don't think I have to prepare very much. It's about attitude.
While at the same time, he ignites a new war of words with our closest allies before his G7 showdown with them this morning.
The First Lady firing back, taking on this claim from her husband's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, about the Stormy Daniels case.
She believes in her husband. She knows it's untrue.
Her team's defiant response this morning.
The Arizona police force under fire for incidents like these, caught on camera beating an unarmed black man. And now this newly released footage showing their confrontation with a 15-year-old.
No more dancing.
Okay, ladies, now let's join Sexy Nation. Dr. Butte is the best at creation.
The so-called dancing doctor now speaking out, facing lawsuits from her patients and her license suspended.
And for the first time ever,
the Washington Capitals are the Stanley Cup champions.
The Washington Capitals are the Stanley Cup champs. The city erupting their first major sports title in more than 25 years. And the emotional moment for this player, doing it all for his dad.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA.
Good morning, America. Great to have you here with us this Friday morning. There are a lot of people who are waking up happy in Washington, D.C. this morning. Take a look at the final seconds of the Washington Capitals game last night. They're getting excited because the city was on edge watching. And you can tell at that moment they had won the Stanley Cup for the first time ever. They had been waiting a long time for that.
Wow, and look at the aerial shot of D.C. right there. See how many thousands and thousands of people showed up. This is D.C.'s first major sports title since 1992 when they won the Super Bowl, and you can see there is so much excitement. I love that moment when they knew they were going to win. They knew they were going to win, and then it happened.
You see the champagne and the beer flying everywhere, but their first title since the inception. 1974. How about that? And you got to give a shout out to Vegas Golden Knights, their inaugural season, and they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. We have our own celebration here in New York. Take a look at Central Park. Fans packing in for our party in the park with R&B superstar Neo. We are looking forward to his smooth sounds this morning.
That's right. We have a lot to get to on this Friday, but we begin with the countdown to President Trump's historic summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. George is on his way there now. The summit almost here after weeks of questions about whether it would actually happen or not. Our senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega has the very latest on the last-minute preparations that are going on right now. Good morning, Cecilia.
It is actually happening. Amy, good morning to you again. On again, off again. It is back on, even though President Trump now says he still could walk away.
President Trump's most important meeting yet, now just days away. And he says he's prepared, sort of.
I think I'm very well prepared. I don't think I have to prepare very much. It's about attitude. It's about willingness to get things done.
Now his Secretary of State playing cleanup.
The president continues to follow every development closely and is getting daily briefings from his national security team.
As for how long the historic meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un will last, it's supposed to be just one day. But President Trump says, wait and see.
1, 2, 3, depending on what happens.
This art of the deal president is now already tempering expectations.
Well, it's going to be much more than a photo op. I think it's a process. I'd love to say it could happen in one deal. Maybe it can. They have to denuke. If they don't denuclearize, that will not be acceptable.
And in the Rose Garden with Japan's prime minister by his side, he set a sobering bar.
I believe we're going to have a terrific success or a modified success.
His hope? One day normalizing relations with the Hermit Kingdom. And he's changing his tune about one of the world's most brutal dictators.
Maximum pressure is absolutely in effect. We don't use the term anymore because we're going into a friendly negotiation.
Perhaps there might even be an invitation to the U.S. in the near future.
Would it be here at the White House or at Mar-a-Lago?
Maybe we'll start with the White House. What do you think?
Well, we may see Kim Jong-un here soon. As for President preparing for this meeting, he says that we're told that he spent about 10 hours a week with the Secretary of State working on preparations. But you heard him. He says this is not as much about preparations as it is about attitude going in. There was also some question, Amy, about whether Dennis Rodman might show up. We do know that he will be in Singapore during this summit, but President Trump said that while he likes Rodman, he was not invited to attend this summit. So he won't be there, Amy.
All right, that is good to know. It is a very busy next few days for the president. Before Singapore, he is headed to the G7 this morning, a meeting with America's allies that looks to be anything but friendly.
Yeah, this is turning out to be really ugly. Our closest allies like France and Canada are publicly bashing President Trump in a fight over tariffs, and he is now firing back in a series of tweets, just lashing out. In one of them, he called Canada's Justin Trudeau indignant. All of this is happening just hours before he's supposed to sit down for some what will probably be very awkward face-to-face meetings. And Amy, we have just found out that the president is now planning to leave the G7 early.
All right, and making his way to Singapore. Cecilia, thank you so much. Michael?
All right, thank you, Amy. And when the president does leave the G7 meeting tomorrow morning, he's headed straight to Singapore for the summit with Kim Jong-un. Let's bring in our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz, who's tracking this in South Korea. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, Michael. The logistics of this summit have been worked on for weeks. Who will sit where, who walks in the room first. From what we know, it will be a small group seated at the table with President Trump and Kim Jong-un. The summit location on Sentosa Island was chosen in part for security reasons because it is an island who comes and goes, can be tightly monitored. President Trump, of course, will have a huge Secret Service contingent, and Kim Jong-un will have layers of protection. When Kim crossed over here into South Korea last month for meetings on the DMZ, his bodyguards were seen running alongside the car. Those bodyguards, members of an elite protection detail, highly trained and handpicked not only for loyalty, but physical appearance. No blemishes allowed. Those guards reportedly separated from their families at an early age to dedicate themselves to the supreme leader. This will be the farthest that Kim has ever traveled as leader, and every precaution is being taken, just as it is for President Trump. Michael?
All right, thank you so much, Martha. A lot of eyes will be on that. And George will be anchoring ABC's coverage of the summit with North Korea live from Singapore starting this Sunday. Paula?
Yeah, George on his way to Singapore right now. Thanks, Michael. And now to First Lady Melania Trump. And some very public and unprecedented pushback from Melania's camp over comments that Rudy Giuliani made about her thoughts on the president and Stormy Daniels. ABC's Lindsay Davis is here with all of the details for us this morning. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Paula. While Mrs. Trump has not commented publicly about Stormy Daniels' alleged affair with her husband, yesterday Giuliani did, saying that, quote, she believes her husband and knows it's untrue. Now the First Lady is making it very clear that the former mayor of New York City does not speak for her.
First Lady Melania Trump is now firing back after comments from the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
And speak for Melania.
But you're a personal friend.
I am, and she believes in her husband. She knows it's untrue.
At a conference in Israel, he was asked what the First Lady thinks about Stormy Daniels, who alleges she had an affair with Trump before he became president.
Excuse me, but when you look at Stormy Daniels, I know Donald Trump, and look at his three wives, right? Beautiful women, classy women, women of great substance. Stormy Daniels.
The First Lady's spokeswoman offered this. I don't believe Mrs. Trump has ever discussed her thoughts on anything with Mr. Giuliani. President Trump did end up paying $130,000 to keep Daniels quiet about their alleged affair. After weeks out of the public eye, Melania Trump emerged from the White House on Wednesday, peering in front of the cameras right alongside her husband.
Thank you, Melania. She's doing great. She went through a little rough patch, but she's doing great.
And it was just last month when the president said Giuliani will, quote, get his facts straight after Giuliani appeared to contradict Trump about some hush money paid to Stormy Daniels. And now it appears Giuliani may have gotten out over his skis again with his latest comments about the First Lady. Michael?
All right, thank you so much, Lindsay. Now to the legal face-off shaping up here at home between President Trump and former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick's legal team is expected to try to subpoena the president, and ABC's Ryan Smith is here with the latest. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Michael. An incredible development this morning. Quarterback Colin Kaepernick is taking his fight to the White House, hoping to put President Donald Trump under oath in his case against the NFL. ABC News has confirmed that the former San Francisco 49er quarterback's legal team is expected to ask for a subpoena if the president won't testify voluntarily in the case to hopefully help prove their allegations that the league and team owners colluded to keep Kaepernick off an NFL roster after he began kneeling during the national anthem in 2016, and that the President Trump's comments about the controversy kept him sidelined. Now, President Trump has called out Kaepernick and the NFL multiple times over the anthem controversy on Twitter and at rallies, but Kaepernick's attorney has declined to comment on the decision to subpoena the president, and a spokesman for the NFL tells ABC News, quote, "We do not have a comment as we continue to abide by the confidentiality provision of the grievance process," Michael.
So this is something that just keeps on going.
It really does. And you know what? There could be an extra hurdle because he's got to get it cleared through the NFL arbitrator before he can actually ask for that subpoena, so we'll see where that goes. Extra hurdle for him.
A lot of layers to go before we get there. All right, thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Amy?
All right, Michael, thank you. And now to that medical mystery. Americans working at a U.S. consulate in China getting sick, facing symptoms typical of traumatic brain injury. It's similar to what happened at the U.S. Embassy in Cuba 2 years ago, if you remember that. ABC's James Longman is tracking all of this from London. James, there are concerns that this could be a type of attack.
That's right, Amy. This is a very strange case. It's a crisis affecting the biggest U.S. consulate in China, with Americans there apparently suffering from a mystery illness. Workers and their families in the southern city of Guangzhou say they're experiencing dizziness, headaches, tinnitus and fatigue. One described hearing a strange sound like marbles being rolled around inside a tunnel. The State Department says they're the kind of things caused by a concussion or a minor traumatic brain injury. Several Americans have been evacuated now to the U.S. for evaluation. And this case gets even more strange because, as you say, these complaints are similar to what happened in Cuba in 2016, when 24 Americans at the U.S. Embassy in Havana fell ill with similar symptoms. That case is still being investigated. The big question now is this just an illness or a deliberate attack? And if so, who is responsible? The Chinese are saying that they have absolutely no idea what's causing all this. They say an investigation into the first reported illness in May came up with nothing, but they're prepared to launch another one and work with the US to find out what's going on. Amy?
Bizarre and frightening. James Longman, thank you so much for that. Paula?
Thanks, Amy. Now to that Arizona police force accused of using excessive force after several incidents were caught on tape. The unarmed black man seen in this violent beating is now telling his side of the story as Mesa police release video of yet another confrontation, this time involving a 15-year-old. ABC's Marcus Moore has the story.
This morning, the unarmed black man seen in the surveillance video being beaten by police, speaking out for the first time.
I want Mesa to be held accountable for what they have done.
Mesa police releasing body camera videos showing their response to a domestic dispute at an apartment complex where they engaged Robert Johnson and his friend on May 23rd. Watch as the friend complies with police.
Grab a seat. Grab a seat.
But Johnson ignores the officer's multiple requests to sit down. Police say Johnson took a defiant stance against the wall, so they move in, and the fists start flying until he goes limp, putting him in a headlock and ultimately taking him to the ground, where they handcuffed him. This is not the first time the Mesa PD has been criticized for their use of force.
This is a culture issue, a police culture issue that has to change.
This morning, new body camera video just released shows officers attempting to arrest a 15-year-old suspected of armed robbery.
You try and move on me one more time, I'm up. You understand that?
The officers claim he has a gun, but he is unarmed.
I saw you in the video with the gun. Where is the gun?
No gun. Officer, call my parents. I'm sorry, I don't have no gun.
Police say that weapon was later found in a backpack nearby. Then there was this incident back in February. An 84-year-old grandmother left bruised. This blurred body camera showing an officer grabbing her by the arm and bringing her to the ground. Police say they were trying to protect her as they responded to a call about a man armed with a gun. And in the incident that happened at the apartment complex, in response to that, the police chief in Mesa issuing special orders for police officers not to hit anyone in the face, head, or neck unless that person is being aggressive towards the officers. Amy, the police chief expected to hold another news conference on these incidents later today.
All right, we will be waiting for that, Marcus. Thank you. And now to a scandal rocking one of the NBA's top teams. The president of the Philadelphia 76ers resigning after an investigation concluded his wife was behind several Twitter accounts bashing the team and then revealing private information. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has the latest.
Sixers president of basketball operations Brian Colangelo resigning Thursday after team investigators say they found that several Twitter burner accounts used to anonymously criticize the team were not run by trolls on the internet, but by Colangelo's own wife. Investigators say Colangelo's wife, Barbara Bettini, admitted to operating 4 accounts used to defend her husband and take digs at players on his team, taking aim at the team's biggest superstar, Joel Embiid. I would love to knock some sense into Joel's head right now. He is playing like a toddler, having tantrums. While investigators say there is no evidence Colangelo, a 2-time NBA Executive of the Year, operated or knew about the accounts, they say they believe he provided his wife with private information she made public, including details of trade discussions and even medical reports. It's not the first time burner accounts have gotten in the way of the game.
Thanks to everybody for watching, and we will see you down the road.
Last year, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell's wife, Jane Skinner Goodell, admitted to operating a bogus account she used solely to defend her husband from tweets, saying it was a really silly thing to do and done out of frustration and love.
Now, Colangelo maintains he had no knowledge of the accounts, telling ABC News, "I vigorously dispute the allegation that my conduct was in any way reckless." But he's not letting his wife off the hook, saying her actions were a seriously misguided effort to publicly defend and support me. And while I recognize how inappropriate these actions were, she acted independently and without my consent or knowledge. Michael.
All right, Eva, things you do for love. All right, here we go. Now to that history-making win overnight. The Washington Capitals taking home the Stanley Cup. It is the team's first championship ever. And ABC's Gio Benitez is here with all the action. And Gio, the city and the team, excited is an understatement.
Oh, they had a good night, Michael. Good morning. Listen, the Washington Capitals joined the league back in 1974. That's 44 years ago, and they hadn't won a Stanley Cup until last night.
Off the face-off, the Capitals have won it!
For the first time in history, the Stanley Cup is coming home to Washington.
The capital of the country is the capital of the hockey playoffs!
The Washington Capitals defeating the Vegas Golden Knights 4-3 to clinch the NHL title. Thousands of long-suffering Capitals fans packing into the streets in Washington, D.C. Jubilation in a sea of red. An explosion of joy when playoff MVP Alex Ovechkin appeared on the Jumbotron holding the cup. Capital star TJ Oshie, who made headlines for taking the subway to these games, was filled with emotion, thanking his father, who is suffering from Alzheimer's.
He's here tonight. I don't know where he's at, but this one will stick with him forever. You can guarantee that.
And by the way, this is also the first major sports championship for Washington in 26 years, when the Redskins won the Super Bowl back in 1992.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
A long time ago.
At
your expense.
I didn't play. I wasn't playing this, but that was good.
Right.
Congratulations to the Capitals. They deserve it, without a doubt.
Yeah, thanks, Gio. We want to send things over to Rob with a look at flash flooding.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yesterday across Oklahoma City, big-time rain, about a half a foot leading to this flash flooding. Had to have a couple of rescues there. And rough storms in Florida, over 50 miles an hour, tossing a trampoline there. We've got some showers and storms today and the next couple of days along this stalled stationary boundary from Iowa to Delaware. Could see some heavier rain for a bit of a washout. Time for your weekend getaway, sponsored by Walgreens.
Stretched, smooth, scarred, soaked. The sun does not care, but we do. Walgreens beauty consultants are specially trained to know what works for the health of your unique skin. Walgreens, trusted since 1901. Now, all sun care products are buy one, get one 50% off.
D.C. riding high on a Caps win, bringing home the Stanley Cup. Our temperatures today are going to be kind of high, too, getting up to 86 degrees. A little touch of summer now. It's going to be a touch humid later and even more so tomorrow. Could see some storms in the mountains coming east of I-81. Better chance after 2 o'clock area-wide tomorrow. In fact, there could be some isolated strong thunderstorms bringing some high winds tomorrow. And then kind of showery and cool for your Sunday. The high 77. Monday now dry.
Coming up, Kim Kardashian West speaking out overnight about the effort to free that great-grandmother from prison, the role Ivanka Trump played.
And that dancing doctor breaking her silence when we come back.
To most, he's Phil Mickelson, pro golfer. To me, he's